Have you ever felt it, that deep weariness that isn't fixed by rest alone? The feeling of giving and giving until there's nothing left? So many of us, especially middle aged women, are leaving the workforce not because we're tired of working, but because we're tired of pretending. Pretending our worth comes from our output, pretending our identity is in our achievements, pretending we can keep going without listening to the field. But what if burnout isn't a failure? What if it's a portal, a gentle, insistent invitation from your oversoul to remember you are not here to be productive. You are here to be resonant. On today's show, Rebirth and Resonance, the unseen gift in burnout, I'm going to share my own journey through exhaustion and into a deeper understanding of what the field was asking of me. This is the interesting thing I realized. It's not about doing less, it's about being more. And I'm going to unpack that today. It's about tuning into the subtle frequencies of your own coherence and letting them guide you, not your to do list. If you've been feeling lost or tired or like you're at the end of your rope, I invite you to watch today's episode. This isn't a fix, it's a mirror, a gentle reflection of the truth that's already alive in you, beautiful soul sister. You are not broken. You are being reborn. You are becoming. Hi, I'm Pollyanna Blanco, the healer's healer, and I guide visionary women to move from exhausted to epic, transforming challenges into sacred soul gifts, radiant resilience, creative courage, and divine wealth. My clients learn to care for themselves as deeply as they care for the world. Are you ready to feel soul nourished and flourish? Okay, so let's get started. I really want to underscore this important point that today we're talking about serving from a place of coherence, not craving. This isn't about being selfless either. It's about being so present that your service becomes a field, not a performance. And I'm going to really unpack that. It's so incredibly simple. It could just slip right by your awareness. It did by mine for many years. In fact, this summer, this past month of July, I have given myself permission to take a full stop rest. It's not that it's a brand new practice for me in general. Being a high school teacher now for going into my 30th year, actually, it'll be 30 years this year. I can't believe it. It's amazing. In tandem with many other things that I'm juggling, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, and also caring for my elderly mother, and just so many movable pieces, right? We all have many movable pieces in our lives, right? And this past July, I decided to travel. That's why my backdrop looks a little different today. I'm back in beautiful sunny Cozumel, Mexico, and I'm excited with the Lion's Gate coming up that I'm going to be here and I'm going to do a special show dedicated to the Lion's Gate coming up next weekend. This show today is my reflection on the past month of a deeper recognition within myself of what burnout is and how it's a sacred invitation. Because when I first got down here, there had been a lot going on prior to leaving, and I just shared an Instagram video about this because I've been deeply reflecting on it. That I became hyper vigilant with packing. I mean, I'm usually a detail person. That's not a shocker. It's just that I packed so, I'm going to call it beautiful mind style, like the minutia, like how many green tea packets would I would pack. It's not that I can't buy green tea down here, but I like a particular brand, this kind of minutia, to the point where I could not get off that moving train. And it was a flag that I was so stuck in overdrive, coupled with an experience across the street from where I live that I didn't understand, that was a bit disturbing, that with neighbors, coupled with some concerns about my mom's health and leaving to be away for a month, and then even a beautiful soul down here um, who had just lost a family member, and and also even back in the city, a colleague of mine, and holding a grief circle, and all these movable pieces, right? And I know you have them too. And our heart, if you're a light worker, your heart is always wanting to say yes, to do the right thing. Not that there's a right thing to do, but you know what I mean. Like that thing that feels like inspired action, that feels like your heart is calling you forward to it. And it's all so beautiful. And at the same time, what caught up with me was that I had lost the balance with my own self care, my own sacred self care. Um, I was starting to ignore my limits, like when uh, after doing a helping out with the end of the year breakfast that our department hosted and teaching, and then packing up a whole computer lab, and then going to a colleague's place afterwards, what I thought was going to be for a couple of hours, and staying there much longer, and then doing a grief circle that turned into, instead of a few hours, turned into an all-day event. I realized where my boundaries had once been strong, I had completely let them slip. And I'm letting myself be the poster child here of, as much as I know better, there's a compounding factor in all of these little micro decisions and choices we make for ourselves. And there's this undertow that can sneak up on us and really yank us down. And it did for me. And the only other thing I want to share specifically, because I think it'll be helpful for you, is, and I describe it as phases when I was down here. The first phase when I was down here was I'm going to be on vacay phase. I'm going to do all the fun vacay things, like go to the beach and, get that ice cream I like down here, or whatever the case might be. And it was almost like an escape from. It was like I just needed to full stop, have some fun, and lighten up, and that was beneficial. Then I moved into another phase where all the things that I didn't realize that had gotten kind of pushed aside, you know, emotions, thoughts, because things had really built to a crescendo before I came down here. That's when I really needed to get into the nitty gritty, sit in the discomfort, sit in the tension between the opposites of, and also realize that I have been shifting and changing so much through my experiences, as you probably have. And actually, today I just heard a beautiful share from the founder of Chakra Dance, Natalie Southgate. It's on her Instagram channel right now, too, if you want to go check it out. Because she studied Jungian psychology. And I had this aha moment, because I often daily look at the Soulkin, or the Dream Spell calendar, and just to see the energy of the day. And today's energy is all about that, the polarities and the tension between those polarities. And Natalie Southgate was talking about the tension between the polarities and how we sit in the discomfort. And when we're going through a rebirth, and we're going through a transition in our life, that so often we want to avoid that discomfort, and we can distract ourselves, even with healing work, and to try to fix things and make it better. And what I noticed during my second phase down here was that and it was another clear sign of burnout, was that certain things that would normally like light me up to go and do had lost their veneer, were showing like to be frayed a little bit around the seams, like weren't just doing it for me the way they'd done it before me before in the past. And And I really needed to sit with that discomfort and that tension in between what I normally love doing down here and the different sort of circumstances I found myself in the summer down here, and realize and recognize that something was shifting and growing and rebirthing in me. And it wasn't going to be like, okay, now we're doing this and everything's okay. I needed to give myself permission for that, because the more I tried to fight it, the more it added to feelings of burnout. And I actually did end up getting like a 24-hour food bug down here, which was my body's way of trying to help me to just shut everything down so that I could rest and I could just give myself permission to just, when I say rest, it wasn't a pleasant rest because I didn't feel well. It was also connected to listening to myself, because I went to a restaurant down here that normally I've never felt drawn to going to. I've always felt, even though I've been around for ages, so, and I'm going to share this with you because you might notice this in yourself too. You know, you are needing the rest, needing to acknowledge the burnout, needing to sit in this discomfort, because what happens is you stop listening to your intuition, you start rationalizing things, you start defaulting to your ego mind, to your logical mind at the expense of your intuitive knowing. And I rationalize, well, they've been around forever, so they must be doing something right to still be in business. And I kicked myself afterwards because I didn't feel good after I ate the food there. It wasn't maybe only that, it was extremely hot. I overdid it in the heat. There's a number of cofactors. But that being said, when you start to override your intuition, it's also a sign that, you know, exhaustion has hit a fever pitch. And so I share all these things with you because as I moved into out of that phase and into sort of what I'm calling a third phase, just towards the end of the month, I started to feel like I was coming back to the land of the living, as I phrased it, because there was this, I had purged some stuff inside of me. I had sat with it. I had faced some uncomfortable patterns in myself. We'd been in a huge Mercury retrograde. So much was, you know, wanting our attention in all of us. And the more you can give yourself this inner spaciousness and outer spaciousness in your life to really see that as valuable and important as all the other, you know, good stuff you do out there in the world for other people and for your workplace or whatever, the more you come home to your home frequency, to your true self. And that's what I really wanted to talk to you about today is I can recognize in myself, in my own journey this past month, how slippery and sly the ego mind is. It will want to tell you everything else is more important. It'll try to tell you that, you know, doing X, Y, and Z because it did it for you a year or 2 years ago is going to do it for you today. And what's your problem if it's not doing it for you right now, and keep you distracted and keep you in a sort of this mosh pit dance, if you will, with it. The key is just to get really quiet. The key is to not make a story up in your mind about any discomfort. The key is to breathe through it. So, you know, what's really needing to be unpacked here is we're taught that service means being seen, being praised, being needed. But what if that's the trap? What if the moment you seek reflection, you actually distort the mirror out there in your life? You know, you begin to serve the ego, not the field. Field care is all about, and this is something I've been diving deep into over this past year, is all about caring for your frequency, your home frequency. Because either way, you're a tuning fork, right? Your body's a tuning fork, and you're either going to vibrate for approval or for alignment. And when we vibrate for approval, even in the subtle, sly ways that we get, you know, we can slip into it, this is where exhaustion begins, because it creates a tension that dims our light, not because you're giving too much, but because you're waiting to be given back. And you'll recognize it in the quiet resentments, the disappointment, the irritation, the impatience, those are all signs, not that we're going to judge any of them. It's just to be curious. It's just a hand on heart. Take a deep breath in and out. I need a little sip of water right now because I took a very deep breath in. And just notice them for what they are, and really notice how your mind will try to spin it. Your mind will try to spin it as being about the other person or being about your job or being, I was watching something recently on YouTube that appealed to me at first. And then in hindsight, when I reflected on it, I thought to myself, it's very relatable. And the reason it's very relatable is because we have these patterns. We have these patterns of, taking it all out on the workplace that doesn't appreciate us, taking it all out on, the partner that's too busy for us or is unavailable in whatever way, shape, or form for whatever reason, or, our business that's not attracting new clients or whatever the case might be. But at the end of the day, those are all signals that if you read them for what they truly are and don't get sucked into the distraction that they can also offer you if you choose to go down that pathway with them, if you see them as the signals that they truly are, they're just an invitation, a sacred invitation to just come home to yourself. The true mirror of service is one that doesn't reflect. It transmits, it stabilizes, it holds space without the need to be held. And I've experienced this, that this is what my soul has called forward in the past month and a half with people around me who have been grieving. And I've gone through my own share of grief, as I'm sure you have in your lifetime. And I had a very powerful, soulful moment where I realized that deeply gazing into the person who I'm with, into their eyes, and just listening with all my pores open is everything to that person. It's absolutely everything to them. And being able to do that from such a pure place of not expecting anything in return, from that inner felt sense of stability, of coherence, of fullness, of completeness inside of myself, of feeling supported just because I'm in that frequency and I'm holding it and I'm grounding it. I don't need anything from that other person. In fact, I'm receiving the opportunity to anchor that. And I know this is going to run counter to some of the things out there about healthy relationships and yada, yada, yada. And I would never encourage anyone to stay in a situation that's abusive or that feels completely one-sided where you're never seen or heard. At the same time, what I am trying to subtly point out is an awareness that feels even still very subtle to me, and I'm still unpacking it along with you today. Yet I feel the profundity of the realization of it, and I know it will help you too. It's this capacity to hold space without needing to be held at the same time because you already trust and know that you are. And this is the essence of something I've never talked about before, ever. And I've been sitting with it now for a very, very long time. And I'm not going to directly talk about it a lot. However, it's something that I'm feeling called to on a soul level to acknowledge today, to be in my integrity. And it's the essence of the 33rd dimension, which is not a place, it's a presence. And just a quick little sound bite backstory about the 33rd dimension, because I don't want to kind of make that the focus of today's show by any means. And it's not to say that it's so high and so much better than any other dimension, nothing like that. It's just, and a label at the end of the day is just a label, right? It's the frequency, it's how we describe it. I'm guessing, I can't remember exactly, it was somewhere between 2015 and 2017. I had called into a radio show with two spiritual teachers that I have been following for years, decades, Master Lady Kira Ra and Sri Ram Ka. And it was my first time calling into their show. I've been blessed to have gotten through to ask a live question on their radio show a number of times. I think that was my second or third time. And I was in a very connected space within myself right before I got onto the call. And I had this very strong intuitive, felt sense that I would be able to have my question asked on the call. I don't even remember what the question was now, but long story short, there was this very profound moment where, and I remember it to this day, where Lady Kira Ra, literally her body felt something, and she acknowledged it. She said, the 33rd dimension just opened. And I am very honored and blessed to share that we co-created that moment together. There was a field resonance that activated in our shared field in that moment in time that activated something in me that I didn't fully um, comprehend, and yet I didn't need to. And that's why it just kind of quietly stayed with me from that point on. And oftentimes people have commented, and I just note this as one of the sort of points along my journey that has helped me to sort of embrace what this is. And there are moments where I dip down into the mosh pit of life, and I have my very human moments too. Definitely don't have it all figured out. I'm committed to the journey. That's what I am. And people will have commented that they feel very calm in my presence and that I have a very calm presence. And most of the time I do. I'm human, divinely human, and I falter from time to time. I don't want to pretend I'm, holier than thou. That being said, I do know that it's been increasing. And I do know that this field is wanting to be alive on the planet right now. And this is why this show is so important, because it's something that you embody. It's not something you teach. It's something you tune into. It's not something you perform. It's not a ceremony you perform or a series of hand patterns you perform. It's something you stabilize. It's a breath field that others can entrain to, not because you're trying to make them entrain to it, but simply because you're being. And so we circle back again to the exhaustion piece and the burnout. And this is a judgment-free zone. But how do you serve without seeking validation? I used to think, oh, I'm not seeking external validation. But let me tell you something. The ego is a sly fox. There are moments, I'm sure, in your life where you've given from a pure, pure heart. And then there are other moments where if you were to take a very honest inventory with yourself, like I have with myself, I'm sure if, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think for most human beings, there are moments where if you notice you're getting agitated, irritated, resentful, they don't appreciate me at work, I'm replaceable, I'm another cog in the machine, they're giving me so much work to push me out to force a retirement. They're seeking validation. And of course, who doesn't want to be validated for a job well done? Who doesn't want to be appreciated? I mean, so much is shifting in this world that we're living in. Old systems are crumbling, and definitely gratitude and appreciation are where we all want to be living from in all aspects of our life. And while we're going through this collective rebirth and old systems that no longer work are falling apart and we're feeling it, it's just a gentle soul reminder that let it all out, feel it all, say it all, punch a pillow, jump up and down, rage, whatever you need to do, get it out of your system. At the same time, once you move through all of that, just as I did this summer, and I moved through a number of things that were pretty deep dives for me, which brought up a whole buffet of emotions and a whole buffet of patterns, and it was sticky stuff. What I want to just gently put on the table for you to consider is, when all of that is done and the story has been playing out, you just return to your breath and you anchor your coherence. You ask, am I serving from my center or from my story? When you serve from your center, your light doesn't demand attention. It invites entrainment. And that entrainment is the real gift. It's not about being thanked. It's not about being acknowledged, validated. All those things are great, nothing wrong with them. It's about being felt. And that feeling is enough, because you're full, you're whole, you're complete. The drama can die, and the part of you that needed that drama can rebirth into and transcend the trap. What I really want to remind you, hand on heart, today is that, and this might sound a little strange to some of you, because we talk about, other people being mirrors in our life, and what are they mirroring back to me? As a light leader, as a light worker, we have choice points, we have decisions to make. And I know I made some really important ones this summer inside of myself, and I just humbly share them with you. And I'm still a work in process, and I'm sure there will be moments where I will falter. I just want to remind you, you are not here to be reflected. You are here to reflect coherence. Let your service be a mirror that doesn't show others themselves. It shows them how to breathe again. Right now, at this now moment, with so much up-leveling in August energetically, and the Lion's Gate right around the corner, and we're in the energy of the Lion's Gate. It's more than just the date itself, it's the time before and after, where we're in this place, especially in Leo energy, of wanting to be seen, of wanting to be acknowledged. Of wanting to be heard and valued. How are you valuing yourself? How are you seeing yourself? And if you could just let the stories drop and see yourself outside of the stories, then you can see others outside of their stories too. Our stories have value, absolutely. They are not the totality of who you are, who I am. They are a gateway, a pathway into our expanded self. They do not define us. And you can keep rewriting and rewriting and rewriting stories. At the end of the day, you're not even a story. You're a breath, you're a coherence field, you're a presence. And there's a freedom in that. There's a freedom in knowing there isn't anything more to attain or get. It's just the more you can honor the inner spaciousness to connect with that and nourish that, it's a different orientation that allows, the more you do that, to feel the fullness of yourself and to hold the fullness of other people without judgment, without needing to get something, because you've already given yourself everything that you need. And this is not about being hyper independent or a trauma response. This is about being fully embodied as divine, creative being incarnate in this vessel, this human form, right? That you get to choose from a full, a very full palette of paint colors, as opposed to a monochromatic color scheme that's very limited and constricting. And, we all have the freedom to live wherever we need to, wherever our soul is calling to. One place is not better than the other. Today, I just really, really, really wanted to offer you a reframe on the hidden gift in burnout. That once you do all the things to acknowledge the burnout, there's something even deeper beneath that. There's a frequency field, a coherence field, just ready and waiting for you to breathe it into your awareness, to feel it, to open, to let it activate in you. And if you would like to reconnect with an experience of that within yourself, Spirit has guided me to co create the 90-minute coherence reset. My original intention with it was when you're having a moment of confusion and you're overthinking things and you're feeling stuck, this is, again, another reframe, another experiential way to shift from the old default mode into a whole new process of coming home to yourself in a relatively short amount of time to but not so short it's an overpromise, just short enough that it also invites you to make a powerful and profound choice that you are worthy of 90 minutes of your time, of being seen, of being heard, of being felt. That 90 minutes without, yes, my guidance in it, but with you just showing up for you, validating you, seeing you, noticing you. Because when you take the step to say yes to yourself for something like that, there is so much healing in that. And I know that from my own journey. I know that from all the times I resisted giving myself just such a gift and letting the old scroll about, I don't have time, I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next month, I'll do it when I'm on vacay, I'll do it when I have the house quiet to myself, whatever the case might be. I postponed giving myself the one thing I needed the most. The one thing that wasn't even about, letting myself get to burnout. It was the one thing that I just needed as much as I needed to brush my teeth or eat a meal or exercise my body or drink water. So I invite you to notice if you have resistance in yourself to give it to saying 90 minutes. What I invite you to consider is, who do you want to be 90 minutes from now within yourself? And right now in this moment, what stories are you telling yourself, about your burnout, about your work, about the next school year coming up, whatever the case might be, about all the things that, and what choices are you making? I've done them all. I've eaten to comfort. I've, binge watched Netflix to comfort. I have, you know, like just so many things. I've even obsessed with healing modalities to avoid just sitting with myself because they all are little clever ways around sitting in that tension of opposites, sitting in that place of hand on heart. I'm in a transition between my old identity and my new one. And I think that's what a lot of burnout is too. A lot of burnout is about a resistance to the fact that we've outgrown certain situations, spaces, and places, and we're yearning to connect to a deeper sense of purpose. And the more we use the same ways of trying to figure things out with the mind, the more we reinforce that exhaustion. The more we reinforce that exhaustion. So I'm just going to share a quick little, actually, I'm going to go to the chat first. I didn't even mention that. I don't know if there's anyone in the chat because this is very spontaneous and I haven't been on for a month. I don't think there's anyone in the chat. No. I'm going to just take a moment right now and I'm going to just share the little trailer I created for the 90-minute coherence reset. So take a moment and just enjoy, and I'll be back in a sec. Great. Well, and there's one final thought. I knew there was another thought that was bubbling on up and wanting to come through. And it's just this, that, one of the things I've learned from my own exhaustion journey at times is that it's that connection to my divine creativity. I'm not talking about artistic talent. It can be that and so much more. I'm talking about just that joy, that spiritual joy. It's not emotional joy, it's a spiritual joy. It's a sense of connectedness to something so much larger than my little self here, to source itself, creative source itself, to be back in that divine creative flow within myself, and to value that, to value nourishing and cultivating that connection to it. And I feel at the heart of burnout is that disconnection from creative source, divine creative source itself within you. Changing jobs, resting more, because when I was resting, as much as resting was needed, physically resting, slowing down, there was still a restlessness. What got me back to feeling like I was in my home frequency was much deeper. It was feeling reconnected to my soul, reconnected to my divine creative essence. That's why I can be back here today with new clarity, new inspiration. And so burnout is really and truly, it is a portal into getting back in rhythm with your soul, back in harmony with your divine creative essence. I can't emphasize that enough. Keep saying it and saying it and saying it because I really want that to land as it's landed. It's landed. Yeah, I can feel it's landed. It's landed. Deep breath in, hand on heart. I invite you to serve not from the need to be seen, but from the stillness of your own light. Until the next time, keep breathing, keep tuning in to your home frequency, and keep being beautiful creative soul. Lots of love and light. Be well.